Our next speaker is Dr. Cyrena Gawuga. She's a member of our community whose lived experience and academic training bring a powerful perspective on reframing disability and embracing pride. So, welcome, Dr. Gawuga.
I usually try to start with like a really brief description of my personal experience. So I have had I've had three incidences of transverse myelitis over the past 10 years. The first time was in 2014. I experienced hemiparalysis, so I was paralyzed on my left side from like the shoulders down. And at the time that happened, I was actually in graduate school, which was a very traumatic experience, I would say, because that's the first time I experienced significant ableism. I got vibes. No one actually said it, but I got vibes that I was not going to be allowed into the club of academia. So the next time I had transverse myelitis incidents was actually in my second graduate program. I was actually in a program to be a social worker, and again ended up in the hospital with hemiparalysis. Um, and then after that, it's so crazy. I'm sure a lot of people have similar experiences. I ended up on chemotherapy for a year because my transverse myelitis was ultimately linked to lupus. I have lupus. I've had lupus since 2008. So I've had a lot of experience with uh, disability caused by transverse myelitis, with chronic illness since 2008 with my lupus. And it wasn't until my between the first and the second episode of the transverse myelitis that I really started thinking about the concept of disability. So, I think a lot of people are really familiar with the idea of disability from the medical standpoint, in that there's something wrong with you. There's because of your illness and it needs to be fixed. And these are the interventions that we're going to use to make you better, to make you normal again. But there's another way of thinking about disability, and that way is the what we call the social model of disability. So it's not so much that something is wrong with you, but it's something wrong with society that keeps you from living the best life that you can live with the body that you have. So the idea of disability pride is for you to embrace the body that you have. And interestingly enough, we just previously had a talk about ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy, and that really links in a lot with disability pride, because now you can acknowledge this is the body that I have, and I'm going to, you can commit yourself to living the life with the body that you need to move forward with. So I just want to relate a story that I have that is kind of, again, along this line of thinking about disability pride and the body that we have. I was in a talk and it was really full. It was almost standing room only. And I can't stand for very long, so I found like a little seat to sit in. And as the talk was over, I was struggling to get out of my seat because I use a cane on a daily basis. And I used a term that, is usually used negatively for people with disabilities, but much like other groups, I've kind of reclaimed that term for myself. And so I referred to myself with this term and said, oh, like, in trying to get up. And a woman came up to me and she said, oh, no, you're not that term. And I thought to myself, no, it's okay for me to use that term for myself. I'm proud of the body that I have, and what I've been able to do with it. And I don't want someone else framing my experience for me. And so, one thing that I think is really important for people with neuroimmune disorders, particularly because our bodies change so much and often so quickly. My transverse myelitis progressed over hours. And from that point, my body was completely different. And so a lot of our illnesses progress so quickly that we don't really have a time to adjust. And our another thing too is a lot of times our bodies um, go into these they're kind of an ebb and flow of the disease. We have recurrences. We have times where things are okay and we look normal. And then we have times where perhaps we're in the hospital in a full-on flare. And so it's difficult to say I'm proud of a body that seems to be attacking me on a regular basis. But if there is a way for you to, again, bring in that idea of act, find something in your life, find something of yourself to hang on to and use that to climb up to a better image. That's a place to start and to think about what it means to be uh, living as a proud disabled person. We all have something that we have that's positive. For me, I don't know if you can see behind me that, but my thing is plants. So um, it can be difficult to get up sometimes, but I do know that I have to water my plants. And I'm very proud of what I've been able to do with my plants, even though I have a lot of limitations. I still have weakness in my left leg. I still have some weakness in my left arm, but that's something that I've been able to do. I've been able to get through school, even though I was on chemo for a whole year of grad school. And I think that no matter what situation that you're in, it is possible to find one thing to hang on to that you can climb up that ladder and get to a point where you can appreciate your body and what it is still able to do, and perhaps even use that to shift into a new area of life, a new place where you can still find success. And for me, even though I haven't been able to work in academia, one of the positive things that I've found in embracing disability is actually being able to work with sRNA. Um, when I discovered sRNA, it was actually Transverse Myelitis Association. I was in my hospital bed and I'm Googling this thing that they told me I have, and Transverse Myelitis Association came up. And so I lurked for a long time, and eventually I reached out and said, how can I help? I have this skill set. I actually am able to translate my experience to a larger group of people and also be able to, geek out and read these articles and move through that geeking out and explain these concepts in a way that people can understand. And so sRNA has actually been super helpful for me in embracing disability pride because I've just met so many fabulous people who are living disability pride, but maybe don't have that term to clean, hold on to. People who, I mean, last year, I just met people who were living with NMOSD, people who were living with transverse myelitis, people who were showing up to the in-person conference despite the burdens that they had to go through, whether they had to deal with airlines screwing up their wheelchairs, or, I mean, for me, one of the burdens is I ended up in the wrong seat and I have to be in an aisle seat, but I ended up in window seat. But I pushed through because I knew that I had to go to this conference to feed that sense of disability pride for myself. And so I really don't want to just talk at people. I think one of the advantages of being virtual is that we can have questions. Is that possible, Gigi?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to add questions to the chat regarding disability or disability pride or what that
Uh,
means, we can do that or in the Q&A.
I'm going to also drop some resources in the chat and my contact information. Um, let's see.
That would be great. And we also have some, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some prior podcasts and videos we've done with
Oh, that's right.
Dr. Gawuga.
Yes.
So we can also put those in the chat as well if folks want to hear more about disability pride and what this means. Because I know the transition from having, suddenly having a disability and thinking to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, what is this? Or having that kind of negative conception of it based on what we've been taught from the medical model and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
to then transitioning to, hey, this is a part of my identity. I'm proud of the,
Mm-hmm.
aspects of this. It doesn't erase the kind of challenges that come from society and how difficult it can be to exist with a disability in a world that's not built
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Right.
But yeah, it's so I very much appreciate you talking about that and disability pride and your experience
Yeah.
and how it's kind of um, come out for you.
Yeah. I think that a lot of us use, adaptations. And I think I will say that it is an ongoing process. I'm not saying you get to a point where you say, oh, yes, I'm expressing disability pride and I'm going forward and I'm always proud of the situation I'm in. I resisted getting an AFO for 10 years. I will tell you, I was happy to have my foot dragging on the ground because that was something that was an additional thing I did not want. I already had a cane. I didn't want that thing strapped to my leg. I have one now. And initially I thought I was going to, be ashamed of it. And, this is just another way of being disabled, and perhaps people will ask me questions. And I'm sure a lot of people have experience with people asking you very invasive questions. And, you know, now it's for me exactly, it's another step towards embracing disability and being proud of what I've done. I made this choice to do something that I needed to move better through the world. No one told me that I had to do it. I made that decision for myself. And I think part of disability pride is also being able to make decisions for yourself and in the face of whether it's in the face of people telling you that you shouldn't do something, or perhaps everyone is telling you you should do something and you don't want to do it. Either one of those is okay, and either one of those is an expression of disability pride. And I think one another issue that I'd like to talk about, and I think this is why I dropped the books in the chat, is that this is a concept that's difficult to explain to other people. It seems strange because we are all living with this medical model. People will expect you to want to be fixed. You don't want, of course, we would prefer not to have these issues that we are living with, but you don't have to be fixed to live a good life. I think that if every one of us is an agent of our own living, what I mean by that is, again, you have the agency to make decisions. And so if you are able to do that, whether or not um, you are what am I trying to, I'm trying to find the right way to say this. Whether or not you have the body that you used to have, or you are able to do the things that you used to do, you can still be proud of where you are now. Uh, for example, I went through 2 weeks of inpatient PT, and I was very proud of the change I made from being unable to walk when I got there to the end of it, being able to hobble around, but still being able to move. And there's a really significant um, sense of accomplishment that comes through whatever degree of improvement that you have. And even if it's just even if it's just is not the right word, even if it's a psychological improvement to better understanding the condition that you're living with, that is an expression of disability pride because you are not sitting and saying, I'm disabled, I'm worthless, I'll never be able to do anything again. And so I think that really it is an ongoing process. I do not want to communicate the idea that you will always be proud of your disability. I'm not always proud of it, but I think that for us living in the neuroimmune community, it's it's sometimes harder, to sorry, sometimes harder to get to that point because so many people are telling you that this is it. You're living with this is who you are now. And it's not all of who you are, but it is a part of you. And I think that if you start with these resources that I've given you, the last link is a good place to begin understanding what disability pride means and how to move forward. And I think it would be really great for us to have a similar kind of resource. We have some podcasts, but maybe not everyone is a podcast person. So if we had something similar for our neuroimmune community, I know Gigi, that might be something of interest. And also, again, I would love to make a plug for ACT. I know that is not that's not what we're talking about now, but I think that it is a really great therapy for um, embracing disability pride, particularly if you can find a provider who is conversant with disability and chronic illness, uh, because it really is what the letters are: acceptance and commitment. You accept you are as you are and be committed to changing yourself to be the best you that you can be. Um, and I know that the prior presentation was for NMOSD, but again, highly encourage it. I've done it. I've been trained to provide it as well. So I've seen it from both sides. And I really think that even if you can just find a resource online, and I don't, I would love to Google it right now, but that's always my instinct, Google, Google. Um, but starting with the resources that the prior presenter gave, look them up. The paper, it was super easy to find, and it'll give you some. Oh wait, let me see. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is my instinct. I already found it. Um, see, geeking out.
Yes.
Uh, um,
Oh, thank
So
you for putting it in the chat.
yeah, I'm totally geeking out. So I think that really disability pride, like I will say ultimately, disability pride is about embracing who you are, however you may be, understanding what your body is able to do and perhaps what it's not able to do anymore, but also recognizing this is not the end of who you are. This is not the end of your life. It is just a different stage of life. We're taught with this medical model that this is who you are now, this is it. You can't, if you're paralyzed from the chest down, sorry, you've reached a plateau with your PT and that's the end of it. But really, disability pride is about saying this is not the end of it. I am going to be who I am in this body, but I'm going to basically show the world that I can be more than my physical form.
Well said.
That's really it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to have an ongoing discussion. Like Gigi said, we have some podcasts, which I don't have the links for, and I'm not going to
We
Google
will.
them.
Yeah, we'll put them in the chat for you. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, Dr.
Yes,
Gawuga,
of
and we'll
course.
continue this conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.